So a very good morning, boys and girls, and welcome back to another video. Welcome to one of my favourite spots in my local area. Come down to Flamborough Head this morning, some sea cliffs overlooking the North Sea, and I've come to one of my favourite rock formations, which is the Drinking Dinosaur. Now, I've been here in all kinds of weather conditions, and not once have I ever had a sunrise. Today's looking somewhat promising. There's a gap on the horizon where some sunlight may shine through and light up the underside of some of this cloud. But before we get into that, I need to answer a question in regards to this. Let me explain. So, a somewhat recurring comment on my YouTube channel in regards to my L bracket, this red thing here that straddles my camera. A lot of people ask where I get it from. It's an Amazon special. I think it's by Newer. There's a link on my storefront on the channel. But a lot of people often ask why I have the L bracket this ways around on the grip side. Well, the answer is probably somewhat disappointing, and it's rather simple. It's so the screen can do that, basically. If I show you the bracket, it's just, you know, there's no gap for the screen. If I have it that way around, screen, quite simple. Now, before we start taking any photographs, just let me show the camera setup here. So I'm using the live ND, so I've got ND64 dialed into the camera. I've got a polarising filter at the back of this filter kit, just taking some of the shine off the water down there. It just allows a little bit more colour reflection to come through. And I've got a soft-edged 3-stop graduated filter on, and that's essentially just going to allow the highlights to be retained in the sky, in the background, should anything really kick off. Alright, so you may be able to see now on the horizon that big orange blob. The sun's just started to rise, and it's just starting to illuminate the underside of all of this cloud, just like I hoped it would do. So it's just a case now of catching it when it's at its peak intensity. I've turned the ND64 off. I've decided I'm not going to do a long exposure of this because there's no point, because there's no sea. So let's just see what happens in the next few minutes, and hopefully all of this cloud here is really going to illuminate really quite nicely. Alright, so here we go, it is happening. I've thrown on the HDR mode on this, so I'm going to do a 3-shot bracket. So we're going to go 2 stops either side of this. I'm going to do a photo measure just so we can get everything in. So if I hold the shutter button down, there we go, 3 photographs have been taken. So the base exposure settings are, if I can get this, 1.3 seconds, f5.6 and ISO 200. And like I say, holding the shutter button down with the HDR mode enabled, the camera's taken 3 photographs, one after another, 2 stops over and 2 stops under. So I can blend them when I get home on the computer, and will hopefully get an awful lot of dynamic range in here. Let's just do another one while it's really starting to boot off now. Here it is. So while we have all of this absolutely gorgeous light going on, which isn't going to last forever, I'm quickly going to change lenses. Now, don't look while I do this because some of you will get upset, I am sure. I'm just going to put that in the bag as it is. Right, the long lens is going on. We're going to zoom in on one of the cliff sides and just see if we can't get a sort of textured photograph of the cliff and all of this gorgeous, gorgeous warm light that we've got right now. I don't know how well this is going to work, but we're going to give it a go anyway. So, zoomed in, we've got something. Now I'm going to do this again. I'm going to do this a HDR photograph again. So 3 stops. So 1/10 of a second, f5.6, ISO 200. Sorry, I'm really cold. The wind and the minus temperatures are really killing me here. There we go, a 3-shot bracket once again. Let's just see how that looks. And just like that, just as quick as it came, it's all gone again. And that's just how quickly. That must have been 5 minutes of really intense golden hour sunlight lighting up the sky, and it's all gone. Although looking on the back of the camera, I'm not entirely sure why I haven't used this technique before of bracketing photographs. I have this habit of using filters to try and achieve the same thing. Bracketing, looking on the camera, seems to do exactly the same thing, only it seems to work a lot better. It's all just a case of how well these photographs merge and blend on the computer when we get home. But I may have had a eureka moment this morning, just simply trying a new feature on my camera. Why have I not done it before? So I've now done a bit of a, well, it's a 90 degrees essentially from where the last bit of video was. And you can see just how blue everything is behind me. And there's some bedrock or seabed or whatever you like to call it, just exposed with some waves sloshing around it. I'm wondering about doing a long exposure. Just pointing the camera down at the bedrock, all the waves sloshing around. Let's see what we can do with that. Golden hour's gone, the light's gone. There's absolutely no point in chasing that anymore. Let's have a look. Let's do a long exposure. So here's the camera setup. I've still got the 3-stop grad on, I've still got the polarizer on, but I've now thrown live ND on the ND64 on the camera. And if I pan down here and focus, this is what I'm going to take a photograph of. This group of rocks here, just leading out into the sea with a slight orange glow and maybe even a little mist and a little fog in the background. Let's just see. You see all the white water sloshing around? Let's see how this turns out. I've had to put the gloves back on. I can't feel my fingernails. It was about -3 when I rocked up, and with a little bit of a breeze, it's cold. Right, so let's go ahead. Let's take this photograph. If I run over here, I might get warm. So, live ND is on. The 3-stop grad's on, just bringing the sky back a little bit. The polarizer's on, just taking some of the shine off some of the rocks and the sea and everything. We're down at 20 seconds. F4 is overexposing now, so we've got F5, ISO 200, ND64. Let's see how this turns out. I really quite liked how that photograph turned out on the back of the camera. I hope it looked all right on the computer. I was really taken with the sky in it, considering there's such a blanket of low cloud around. I was surprised to see quite so much texture in there. I wonder if it's got something to do with the low angle that the light's hitting, maybe. I don't know, I'm not a scientist, but it may be something to do with that. Now, this morning has been a bit of a fun one for me. Now, I know there is going to be some purists out there who hate this computational photography side of things, but the OM System OM1 that I'm using and all its computational photography features, for the way that I shoot, it's just absolutely perfect, especially the HDR mode. That is something this morning, like I say, a eureka moment has been had, and I'm hoping that that's going to encourage me to use that mode a little bit more, especially at these sunrise shoots. There's often times when I come out and shoot sunrises, and I've always been a little bit disappointed with the raw file when I get home, sort of the lack of any sort of dynamic range in there. Well, maybe that's not the right way of putting it. There is plenty of dynamic range in there, but it's just not quite what I imagined, and I'm hoping using an awful lot more dynamic range using the HDR mode is going to give some really nice looking photographs. Obviously you guys have seen them, I've not. It's kind of a bit weird. You know where I'm going with this. I've had fun so far this morning using the computational modes, and that's what I'm trying to get across. If you're in the market for something that can do computational photography and really just help and aid with what you're doing, have a look at the OM1. It's a cracking little camera. So I've moved round now to an area called Selwick Bay, and I want to take a photograph of pretty much the entire bay. It's somewhere I've been at night and done a little bit of astrophotography. It's actually been quite a long time since I've taken a daytime photograph from here. We're going to do the same kind of thing as the last one. We're going to do a long exposure using the same kind of equipment, and we're just going to see how it turns out. So let's just readjust here. I think the sky in my last photograph was in part due to this grad that I never ever use. Just moving it around, I can see as I'm moving it, the sky detail is coming and going as I'm sliding it up and down. Worth remembering that one. It's not something I often use. So 25 seconds, F5 and ISO 200, and we're overexposing this by 1/3 of a stop, and that's just throwing the histogram right in the middle. There's a rock formation just off to my right hand side. We kind of got that on the edge of the frame. There's another one sticking out on the bottom left hand rule of thirds point. We've got the horizon on the top rule of thirds line. We've just got some cliffs coming in from the left hand side, and a lot of white water swirling around as the tide is just hitting all of the bedrock that is exposed. So the camera's now taking the photograph. I'll show it to you once it's taken. Well, what fun that has been, just trying a couple of new different things, a couple of new techniques, and I'm hoping the photographs are going to look okay for them. So thank you very much for watching. If you have enjoyed today's video, please do give it a thumbs up and a like, because it really does help bring new viewers to see my content. And if you're new here and you have enjoyed it just that little bit more, do consider pressing the subscribe button somewhere below me, and you'll see more Micro Four Thirds related nonsense every single week. So until the next time, I'm just going to love you and leave you and say peace and goodbye. Oh, I need to go home and get warmed up. It's